Hello everyone and welcome to our webinar today on changes to dual citizenship laws in Germany and Austria. We've just got a couple of things to go through before we get started, which is just a quick reminder to pop your comments in the comment sections below. And if you want to, we've also got a survey in the description that's just about the webinar. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Today, we will be covering what the new German citizenship laws are, how the laws could affect you, the difficulties of Austrian citizenship laws, and a Q&A with you, the audience. Today, we'll be joined by our moderator, Eva Hussain, who is Polaron's director and founder, as well as a recognized leader in the fields of translations and European citizenship. She regularly presents at lectures and conferences, as well as universities and training institutions on the topics of language services, cultural awareness, and history. We are also joined by our guest speakers, Eva-Maria, who is a consular officer for the Consulate General of the Republic of Austria in Victoria. She is also a marketing consultant and nutritionist, so thank you for joining us. We are also joined by Anica, who's a German citizenship specialist and is knowledgeable about a range of EU citizenship types. She has a particular interest in German citizenship, as Germany is her home country. Here at Polaron, we've helped over 15,000 people obtain EU citizenship and reconnect with their European heritage since 2003. And we are known for taking on complex cases. Our clients receive administrative, linguistic, and project management support and often have a dedicated case manager throughout their journey. So we'll be starting a presentation in just a moment. We do have Eva still joining us, as she's had a meeting today in Adelaide. So we'll just be starting in a moment. I think Eva's just joined. So Eva, if you're happy to turn on your camera, thank you so much for joining us in Adelaide today. Really appreciate it.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Eva. How are you this morning?
Good, really good. How is everyone?
Yes, good, thank you. We've got our presentation happening now. So if you're happy to take it away, I'll move to the next slide for you.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone, and we are talking today about German and Austrian citizenship, which is an interesting topic in that there have been, in the recent years, some changes in law for both countries. So prior to September 2021, laws in Germany were quite restrictive about citizenship and about how you cannot hold dual citizenship. Austria is still the case in Austria, whereby you cannot hold dual citizenship if you naturalize in another country. But in Germany, things are going to be changing as of next year. So we are going to be talking and covering some of that. But on your screen there, you can see a map of Germany and Austria and how the borders have changed. So both Germany and Austria as a country are quite new as far as their borders. They used to be massive empires that have been reduced to somewhat smaller lands. But as you can see on the screen there have been some changes, and the current borders are, as you see them, there on your screen. So I might ask you, Stephanie, to move on to the next slide, please. On this screen, you can also see some of the changes and how Germany once upon a time was a massive, essentially empire. So was Austria-Hungarian Empire. It extended, so Germany extended all the way to Finland, Czech Republic, Hungary, and Austria-Hungarian Empire was also quite a big state in that parts of Poland, Czech Republic, Czechoslovakia, Hungary were also part of it. All of that changed in 1918, and it changed further in 1945 and beyond. Austria was under occupation after World War II, and the lawmakers made sure that it's a neutral country. Eva-Maria will be able to tell us a little bit more about that, and Anica is going to be able to tell us a little bit more about the German history in the context of citizenship. So we might move on to the next slide. So essentially, both countries allow dual citizenship, but they don't recognize it. So what I mean by that is that if you are a child of an Austrian or German citizen, and if you are born outside of those two countries, as long as you have one parent that's Austrian or German at the time of your birth, generally speaking, without going into too much of detail, you will be Austrian or German. But Germany in 2021 and Austria in 2020 also made the laws a bit flexible in that they introduced or expanded on concepts such as restitution of citizenship, meaning that if your ancestors were subject to persecution during the Nazi era, you might be able to get your citizenship back. In the case of Germany, it is even for people who are not ethnically German. So we'll cover that a little bit. And Germany, generally speaking, has a lot more pathways to citizenship. So there's determination and declaration and restitution. But although the top of the slides says that they both allow, they also don't allow it. So I know it sounds a bit confusing, but the reason we said that is because whilst in Germany, you cannot be recognized as a citizen of other country. And if you do currently naturalize, if you hold German Austrian citizenship, if you currently naturalize outside of Germany, Austria, you would lose your German or Austrian citizenship unless you apply for exemption, and that's really quite difficult to get. All that's going to change for Germany in a few months, so early next year. We're hoping that the laws will be introduced. And may I have the next slide, please, Stephanie? And now on to the discussion. So I'll ask Anica first about the proposed law changes in Germany. Already Germany had some major changes to the legislation in September 2021, but there's now something new that's being discussed in Germany, and it looks like it's going to be introduced early next year. Would you like to tell us a bit more about that?
Hi, everybody. Yes, absolutely. So in August 22, the German government approved a draft to change some basic rules of German citizenship. And we are hoping they're coming into place early 2024, or at least within the next year. And the amendments, like Eva just said, will allow multiple citizenships, and it will also reduce the lead time to become a German citizen. I tried to get it down into 4 key points because it's always very extensive for the easier understanding. So the first point is, at the moment, if you're not a German citizen and you live in Germany, you are able to naturalize after 8 years, having residence in Germany. So that lead time will probably quite likely go down to 5 years. Spouses and main children can be included in that naturalization process, even if they stayed there for less than 5 years within one main application. And there's also the discretionary naturalization. So you can even reduce those 5 years to 3 years, providing, you can prove special integration through language skills or school achievements or work achievements. So they just loosen it up a little bit, and they're making it a little bit more easier to get people naturalized. So the second point is that multiple citizenships will be allowed for all individuals, so not just EU citizen and Switzerland and the countries with a special exemptions. So you can literally retain your current citizenship if you apply for German, which is a big point. And it's the same the other way around. So if you are a German and you want to get another citizenship, you would not need the retention anymore. The third point is that obtaining German citizenship automatically by birth will, at the moment, will require at least one parent to legally stay in Germany for at least 8 years. So that time will go down to 5 years. So that time will be also shortened. And the Optionspflicht will be cancelled. So children will not have to choose anymore when they're turning 18, which citizenship they want to keep. And the last point is that they will, at the moment, no German, like you can't naturalize if you have a criminal record. So they will include, racist, anti-Semitism and inhuman acts in those, just to modernize it a little bit. I mean, the main goal is literally to reduce the lead time for naturalization and to reduce the administrative time and just be, getting people more into easier to become German citizens. And when are they expected to become law? Well, hopefully, if it goes through all the legislation processes in Germany, then hopefully it will come into place next year.
Brilliant. So what impact do you think that will have, generally speaking? Well, firstly, on our work, and secondly, on, the diaspora, I guess?
Well, we do have people who would like to naturalize. And, if you're outside of Germany, like you just said, it's really tricky to do that if you don't want to give up the citizenship you are holding. You would have to apply for exemption, and you would have to put down like a lot of arguments why you don't want to give up your own citizenship. So that will hopefully be much easier going forward, so that people can just naturalize more straightforward, much faster. So the multiple citizenship point is really a big step.
Okay. So this is something quite new under the laws, right? Under the German laws, in that there were, I don't know if it's fair to say, but they were discriminatory towards women, for example, under the previous legislation. So what do we understand the extra flexibility to be driven by? So is it just the political climate, or people often ask how come in the space of the last few years we have relaxed the laws so much?
You can really see that the German government has been modernizing their laws pretty much from 2020 onwards. Like there were a lot of law changes that came into place that, where they looked at, okay, it's not really, it's a bit discriminating that you could only claim it from the male lineage and not the female lineage. So they kind of, put in a time frame where you can reclaim German citizenship until 2031. If you have had a German grandmother, for example, who married an American citizen, which is something that happened a lot because America came over in World War II. So there are a lot of scenarios where a German woman couldn't pass on their citizenship, which has been rectified, and now you can reclaim that for your lineage and for your descendants. And it's definitely part of that modernization climate a little bit. And to also say, let's make it easier to get more people in the German workforce and people who spend the time in Germany and have residency here to naturalize them a little bit faster and quicker and make it easier for them to become Germans. I think that is a very, very modern thought. That's rectified. In
so
the
it's
law.
kind of a bit of a social movement, I guess. Well, thank you. That is very, very interesting, Anica. Thank you for giving us that quick but very thorough overview. I might now ask Eva-Maria to tell us a little bit more about what it's like in Austria.
I think now I'm unmuted. Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you. Hello,
Okay,
hello, hello.
amazing. Hi, good morning, everyone. So yeah, Austria is definitely a little bit more, for lack of better words, backwards with regards to dual citizenship. So the Austrian government in general does not encourage or allow dual citizenship except for some rare exceptions. And you've already alluded to a couple of them, Eva, before. So number one is obviously the birthright. So you are born to an Austrian parent and possibly a parent of a different citizenship. You can also obtain dual citizenship if it is in the interest of the Republic of Austria. So that's my four A's: actors, artists, athletes, academics, maybe authors. So anyone who is famous and who the Republic would not want to lose as one of their citizens. They have since a couple of years now also made some exceptions for people in extraordinary circumstances, so where they would really have some personal problems or suffer personally if they would have to give up their citizenship. So not an extraordinary circumstance is having to organize care of parents or grandparents, unless it is something like you have to travel to Austria every other day to care of them, then that could be potentially considered. Not an extraordinary circumstance is also having family and friends in Austria, or having emotional ties to Austria. Unfortunately, that does not count as well. Or even wanting to vote, because the Republic is saying, well, if you want to take on another citizenship and want to vote in both countries, we don't really care, just vote where you live. Another reason to keep Austrian citizenship is if it is in the special interest of a child. That's usually actually a little bit easier as a pathway to retain dual citizenship. And then, of course, since a couple of years, we also offer citizenship to anybody who has been persecuted by the NS regime during the Second World War and all of their descendants. So that's children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. So that's basically the circumstances in which we do allow for dual citizenship in Austria.
Brilliant. So in other words, the laws have been made somewhat more flexible with the pathway through restitution. And is the Austrian community, would you say, a little bit unhappy that some people can and other people can't hold dual citizenship?
Yeah, there's definitely some frustration about this. And I think the general consensus for a lot of expatriates, Austrian expats, is that it is a bit of an antiquated law, because that's just the reality of the life that we all live in now, is that we're all traveling around the world and living in different countries in the world. So it should be made a little bit easier. However, going into the second question here on the screen, do I think the dual citizenship laws will ever change? We're not sure. So currently it is not in the program of our government to change anything there. However, I think if the laws are being made a little bit easier for our lovely neighbors in the north, for Germany, there might be a chance that someday in the future these laws will be eased a little bit. But yeah, right now the answer is probably not.
Okay, and I guess what we should also emphasize that you can be born Austrian and Australian, let's say, or American, and essentially hold dual citizenship, but you cannot retain your Austrian citizenship if you're naturalized in another country. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. And that is actually really important because some people have asked me in the past, what if I just take on Australian, American, Canadian citizenship and I don't tell Austria about it? The next time that these people would then apply for a passport, their citizenship will be automatically revoked. As a matter of fact, it is automatically revoked the very moment people take on another citizenship without applying for the document that is the Beibehaltungsbescheid der österreichischen Staatsbürgerschaft, so the retention certificate of the citizenship. It's always advised to launch the application for retention of dual citizenship. Don't just go and get another citizenship. You will lose your Austrian citizenship.
And that exemption is rarely granted, though. You'd have to have pretty compelling reasons, such as the best interest of a child, or be one of the forays, as you said, to be able to retain it, yeah?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's also important that if an application is being launched with, so it's launched with your Bundesland, with your state, and if that application gets rejected, the general recommendation is to actually withdraw the application and then maybe try again in a couple of years if your circumstances have changed, if you are then in a position to be of special interest of the Republic of Austria, or if you are in a position of extraordinary personal circumstances.
Because it is managed, this whole process is managed by local authorities rather than federally in Austria. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. So it is always handled by your state. So by your state means, or by a Bundesland, means it is the Bundesland where you were last registered with the main residency. If you were born abroad, then it is automatically through Vienna.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for clarifying that. And look, we do have a few minutes for quick questions to both you, Eva-Maria and Anica. So I might hand over to Stephanie, because I know that we get watched live and people always have a lot of good questions. So over to you, Stephanie.
We do have a few questions, and thank you for those answers as well to the discussion. So the first question, I think this will be to Anica. It says, my dad's mother, who was German, became a US citizen a year before my dad's birth. Would the new changes in law allow me a pathway to German citizenship through my grandmother?
I mean, that is complex. That depends because, the German changes always valid once they become approved. So, we have to see if there's a time for backdating, like we have with the declaration case where they're allowed to do that. Because it's absolutely heartbreaking. We have that quite often, that we get beautiful family trees with really strong German ancestry and heritage. And we have to say, oh, sorry, they took on another citizenship before the next generation was born. So there is a higher risk. It's probably not going forward. So that will not happen in future if that law comes into place. If we can backdate it, that depends if how complex the law will be, if they give us a time frame to do so.
Great.
So we kind of have to wait and see what happens and how flexible it actually will be. Okay, next question, Stephanie. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So the next question will be either for Eva or Eva-Maria. It says, my grandfather was born in Austria to Austrian parents. They immigrated when he was 8 months, never naturalized as US citizens, but he was my mother's father. Any changes? Do you see any changes coming to this law?
Did you want to take that one, Eva-Maria?
I'm not 100% sure what the question is.
So essentially, I think he's just asking if either of you see any Austrian laws changing so that people who have parents or grandparents that immigrated from Austria would be able to get dual citizenship in the future. But I think it's a bit looking in the glass ball.
Yeah, I think that there's nothing in the works. So unlike in Germany, there's nothing before the parliament or the lawmakers considering those changes, but you just never know. There may be community and diaspora pressure to change that, but of course, we'll have another webinar when these changes come. And look, even a few years ago, nobody expected that Germany would be so much more flexible. So you don't know, but I think understanding this question correctly, if you've been told that you do not qualify, nothing changed unless you are a descendant of people that were subject to oppression or repressions by the Nazi regime prior to or during World War II.
Thanks.
If I may add to this one very
Of
quickly,
course.
if the person was born in the United States and the parents had kept Austrian citizenship, it kind of depends also when you were born, but they would be entitled to Austrian citizenship. And if they were born in the United States as well to an Austrian parent, then they would have the right to dual citizenship through birth.
Perfect. Thanks for that answer. So time for one more question, I think. And I was just going to ask, so will there be any restrictions on dual citizenship, such as age or residency requirements for German citizenship specifically?
That's Anica question, I think.
I think so.
Yeah, say that again, because it was really complex.
Yes, it was. So, will there be any restrictions on dual citizenship, such as age or residency requirements?
Okay, on age, that depends if what's included in that law. So if they give an age restriction on it. And residency requirements, they will definitely be shortened. So at the moment, it's 8 years. Residency is an important part of German citizenship. Like Eva just said, like if you can have German citizenship or Austrian citizenship by descent through your parents, that's the same for Germany. But the other big point that the German government says is if you live on German ground and you integrate yourself in the German culture and you learn German, you become German, you have the right to naturalize. So at the moment, this is 8 years, and it will hopefully go down to 5 years, plus an exemption down to 3 years if you can prove that you have integrated or you have special achievements that can prove that you're right there. You got it. And that's big. Like 3 years coming down from 8 to 3 years potentially is a big
yeah, it's massive. Well, thank you everyone today for sharing your knowledge with me and sharing your knowledge with our audience.
Thanks for having us.
It's been very eye-opening.
Thank you kindly. We will be posting updates as we go along. Any time that any of the laws change in any way, shape or form, we will definitely run more webinars. But a big thank you to Eva-Maria and Anica for sharing your knowledge and experience with all of us. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much, everyone. Bye.
Bye.